Siyo, God. Welcome to Cherokee Stories. I'm your host, Phil Bange. If you'd like to do an interview and tell us your story, give us your family history, and add to the history of our people, please email us at cherokeestories@hotmail.com. I'm going to tell a story from Friends of Thunder, Folk Tales of the Oklahoma Cherokees, by Jack F. Kilpatrick and Anna G. Kilpatrick. I'm going to read to you The Origin of Corn. It is a beautiful story, and I think a lot of these old stories have lessons for us. And then, some of them are a bit outdated, and you'll see what I mean. But I think the stories are still beautiful, and they still have some lessons that are pertain to our times today. A new version of a classic, The Origin of Corn, is, to be sure, one of the best known of all Indian cosmogonic myths, Cherokee or otherwise. It is represented by fairly extensive treatment and echoed by Creek, Nachi Cherokee, and Coazati contributions. The version that we came upon differs significantly in detail from them all, but its most cherishable difference lies in its emotional qualities, or so it seems. This may be due to the respective techniques employed in transcription. All the others appear to be essentially retellings of the myth in English. We translated directly from the verbal text. The Origin of Corn. I think that these stories, the one he had been telling, are very interesting. From my childhood, they have been interesting to me. At one time there was a very old woman who had 2 grandsons. These 2 grandsons were always hunting. They hunted deer and wild turkeys. The family always had plenty to eat. Later on, after many hunting trips, when they got ready to go hunting early in the morning, they were cleaning their guns. When their grandmother noticed that they were ready to go hunting, she thought to herself, "They're getting ready to go hunting." So she went to them where they were cleaning their guns outside the fenced-in yard. When the grandmother came to them, they were busily cleaning their guns. She said to them, "I see that you're getting ready to go hunting." And they replied, "Yes, we're going to hunt deer today." "Well, when you come back, I'll have the most delicious of dinners ready. I'm going to cook all the old meat, and I'm going to put it into something they call corn, and we're going to drink the broth from it," she said to the young men. "All right," said the young men. When they got to the forest, they wondered about the word corn that she had used. They didn't know what that was, and they wondered where she got it. "I wonder where corn comes from," they asked each other. "When we get home, we'll find out," they said. They killed a deer, shouldered it, and went home. When they got home, they saw the large pot bubbling. They noticed that with the meat, corn in small ground-up pieces was boiling in there. If anyone had ever seen it before, he would have known what it was. But then these boys had never seen it before. They asked their grandmother, "What is that you have in the pot?" "It's called grits." They didn't ask her where she got it. When they ate their dinner, the young men had the most delicious meal they had ever had. After dinner, they told their grandmother what a superb meal she had cooked. The grandmother was pleased. "Well, tomorrow at noon we will have some more delicious food." The next day the young men went hunting again, But the family already had some dried turkeys, so the grandmother cooked these dried turkeys and cooked grits with them. When the young men returned home that evening with their bag of turkeys, dinner was announced. With this meat were these grits, and the young men said, "This is the best meal that we have ever had." They thanked their grandmother again and told her that her food was delicious. The grandmother was very pleased and said, "I'm so happy that you said what you did." Next day the young men again went to the forest. While they were in the forest, one of them kept thinking about the corn. This thing she calls corn. She said that today about noon she is going to start cooking again. And one to the other, and the other said, "Yes, that's what she said." "I'll go hide somewhere and see where she gets it if you want me to," said one of them. "All right," said the other. "You had better go before she begins cooking." So one of them went. This thing called corn was troubling this young man, so he hid behind the smokehouse and watched for his grandmother. Later on, the grandmother came carrying a large pan and went into the smokehouse. The young man peeped through a small hole. When the grandmother got into the smokehouse, she put the pan under where she was standing. Then she struck both of her sides. And when she hit her sides, grits fell from every part of her body. They fell until the pan became full. When she came out of the smokehouse, she carried this pan of grits, dumped them into the pot, and began cooking them. That's what the young man learned. And when he went back to his brother and told him about it, when he arrived where his brother was, his brother asked him what he had learned. He said to his brother, "This delicious food of grandmother's that we have been eating comes from her body. She shakes it off from all over her body. She puts a pan under her. She strikes her sides, and then it falls from her body and falls into the pan until it is full. And that is what we have been eating," he told his brother. His brother said, "We really eat an unsavory thing, don't we?" So they decided that they would not eat any more of it when they got home. When they arrived home, their grandmother had dinner ready. Again, she had the same kind of food. They both didn't eat much. "What's wrong? You're not eating very much." "Don't you like me?" said their grandmother. The young men said, "No, we're just too tired to eat much from walking so much in our hunting." "But I think that you don't like me," she said. "Or maybe you learned something somewhere, and that's the reason that you don't want to eat," they were told. At that moment, grandmother became ill. She knew that they had found out her secret. The grandmother took to bed, and she began to talk to them about what they should do. "Now that I'm in bed, I'm going to die." She told them all about what was going to happen in the future. "When you bury me, you must put a large fence around me and bury me just right out there. Something will grow from right in the middle of my grave. This thing will grow up to be tall. It will flower at the top, and in the lower part will come out beautiful tassels, and inside of them will be kernels. It will bear 2 or 3 ears of corn with corn silk on them. You must leave the ears alone and take care of the plant. Put a fence around it. The ears will dry. They will be very white. The shuck will be brown and crisp, and the silk will be dark brown. That is when you gather it. This thing they call corn is I. This corn will have its origin in me. You must take the kernels off the cob and plant them. Store them away until spring. When spring comes, make spaced-out holes in the ground and put about 2 of the kernels in each hole. By doing this, you will increase your supply, and it is surpassingly good food. And when it sprouts, it will go through the various stages of growth that you will have seen in this one, plant of mine. Then it will bear corn that you can use either to boil. Boiled corn is very good to eat all summer long while it is green. Or in winter you can use it to make meal. "I will be the corn mother," said the old woman. "A long time ago," they said. That's the injunction that the young men were taught to carry out. They thought about this deeply as they were burying her after she died. After they buried her, they made the fence, and all that summer The plant grew and bore corn just as she had told it would do. And when the corn became dry, they gathered it and took the kernels off the cobs. Then again next spring they planted it. Then the two young men said, "It would be better if we each had a wife." One of the young men said, "Let's just one of us get a wife. You get a wife, and I'll be a bachelor and live with you." The other said, "All right," and left to search for a wife. The young man said to the one who left to get a wife, "Just walk some distance over there. Blow your cupped hands, making a whistling noise, and there will be a girl run to you." So the young man searching for arrived at a destination away off into the forest near a house, I believe. In that house was an old couple with a large number of young daughters. These young women were all outside playing. Some of these young women were frolicking about, and others were laughing and making a lot of noise. The young man came quite near, blew into his hands and whistled. One of the young women who was playing stopped and said, "I'm going to stop playing because someone is whistling for me," and left the group. She ran directly to the young man. The young man said to her, "We'll marry if it's all right with you." She said, "All right." So they went to his home. The young man told her that in the spring they would plant corn, and each year they would plant more and more of it. So when spring came, they used their hoes to make holes so that they could plant corn. They hoed and had a very large field of corn, and that was the beginning of there being so much corn. And they remembered what the old woman had said to them. "I will be the corn mother," she had said. "Don't ever forget where I am buried." She had told them when she talked to them. From this beginning there became so much corn that everyone in the whole world had some. They say that corn had its beginning from a human being, that the plant called corn started from a woman, and that when this young man took a wife, they had such a huge field that they had much corn and much food to eat. That's what I know, and that's the end of it. That is all. Sikwanit. And that concludes our story. Wado, Adonada go hai.
Wahilde bohi, wahilde bohi, wahilde bohi, wahilde bohi, wadagila sadi ayun, jisekiya, wadagila sadi ayun. Wahilde gohi, wahilde gohi, wahilde gohi, wahilde gohi, wadagila sadi ayun, jisekiya, wadagila sadi ayun.